Welcome to Mastermind Your Launch. I'm your host, Stefanie Sheehan, and I invite you to join me as I interview inspiring entrepreneurs to learn just how they turn their passion into a business. Because just like you, every successful entrepreneur started their journey with just an idea and the courage to take that first step. So let's see how they did it. Hello and welcome to the special video episode of the Mastermind Your Launch podcast, where we are all about uniting entrepreneurs in a powerfully connected community. Here with me today is Scott Williford, who is the founder and CEO of vLink Solutions. Scott, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that we were able to host you, and
yes,
excited that you're able to see a little bit of our studio while we're doing this. So it's going to be fun.
Thank you so much for hosting us here today. Please share a little bit about your background.
So I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. One time I was asked, what made you decide to leave corporate America? And I was like, I never planned to stay. So my father was an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur. I started out in the professional services industry, running a consulting business, all around technology and telecommunications. I realized pretty quickly that selling professional services by the hour meant I had to hire and grow my staff in order to grow the company. So I began looking at software solutions and software products and ended up investing into a software company down at ATDC. And since then, I've kind of had this startup software technology sickness and have been, I think this is my 8th entity. So that's in a nutshell. I could tell you a little bit about every one of them, but in a nutshell, that's the thing.
It does. It's like a bug. Once you get it, it is really hard to shake.
I keep looking for a 12-step program, and I use this line all the time, to break this serial entrepreneur sickness, but I can't find one, so I just have succumbed to my addiction.
So when it comes to entrepreneurship, what was it that just kind of gave you that sense that that's where you needed to be?
So when you're an entrepreneur, you have to work hard. It's not going to be all of a sudden I've got all this free time and I can do what I want when I want. So it wasn't that I was looking for. It was really more being in control of my own destiny. Before I started my own businesses, I was a commissioned sales rep of some sort, and so I knew what it meant to hit quota and what it meant to hit a number. And so now that I've kind of gotten into it, I really love building businesses and have successfully done so and sold some, and have had some failures along the way or some less than stellar successes along the way. For me, what's fun is being able to, whatever industry I've been in or whatever solution we've been selling, being able to take that and help our clients. That's really the cool thing for me, is always being able to help others, whether it's a utility services company, which I ran for a while, or helping someone create video content, or helping a firm manage their telecommunications infrastructure. It's always been, what can I do for the other guy, and how can I monetize that to make money?
Right. I think that's been kind of a trend as I've been interviewing different entrepreneurs on the show. It's that thing that really brings about your best self and your best success is when you are able to just really think about how you're serving others.
That's right.
And then just, the momentum that comes from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was a motivational speaker years ago, a lot of people quote him still, Zig Ziglar, and he would say, you can judge your own success by those you've helped become successful. And that was not only Zig Ziglar's statement to me, but I've also had other mentors in my life that have said kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. A guy that I knew that was one of my mentors early in my career had a real estate company, and he had several opportunities where people had grown up in the company and left and gone into competition with him. And he said, that's the greatest honor. I know that I raised them up, helped them be successful, and now they can be on the other side of the table, us doing a deal together rather than them just working for me. And that's kind of the attitude I've had. Let me help and push things along. And even when I've had companies that I've had split-offs or spin-offs or other people start their own thing, it's an honor to that you've helped them get there.
What a beautiful mindset to have. And speaking of mindset,
I'd love to go back to maybe your first one or two ventures. And, it's very easy to generate success from success. But when you're starting and you're just beginning, what was your mindset when you first took that leap?
So, and I think your question's kind of pointed toward how we headed in one direction and then pivoted. So for me, every time I've started a company, we've always had some idea, some plan, some strategy that we thought it's going to change the world. We're going to make a lot of money doing this. And pretty quickly you realize that you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, that your ideas are not always the best ideas, and what you want to do and what you're trying to solve is not necessarily solving the customer's problems the way you thought they would. And so for me, as I've moved through my first couple of ventures, and even today, you kind of get to a point where you have to pivot. And it's looking at the industry that you're reaching or the industry you're failing to reach and figuring out how can I solve somebody else's problem. Just one quick story, there was a company I invested in down at ATDC, I mentioned it earlier, called NetSurfer. And NetSurfer, when I invested, the whole idea was this software solution that helped you quickly and easily install software over the internet, which is now commonplace. This was back in the mid-90s. And I thought this is going to be the next big thing. And at the same time that we were doing that, other companies in other parts of the country were doing something very similar. And so after really struggling to raise money and struggling to find the right customers, we pulled together an advisory board. And on that advisory board, they said, you've got this one client that's spending a lot of money with you and they're not really leveraging that technology. What if you took that technology, married it with what that client is buying, and then go after that client space? And so we made a huge pivot. And as a result, within the first 3 years of that change, we had 4.5 million users of the new product. So we went from not being able to survive, made a pivot, combined ideas to a product need that our clients truly had. And the next thing you know, we're hiring and growing, and there was a little adjustment in the internet startup market in the early 2000 that affected that business, but it was fun. We were growing by leaps and bounds. We closed 550 contracts in 3 years.
Wow.
It was a daily thing.
What you're talking about, you have your idea, but having the flexibility to assess what's going on. What do customers want versus, I think a lot of entrepreneurs think if you build it, they will come kind of mentality. And, everyone's so gung-ho, but you quickly learn that you have to assess outside of your own mind. You have to look outside of yourself to really understand where your talent best aligns with the market. And this is for tech, this is for services, products, this is everything. I'd love for you to share some advice on what early entrepreneurs can do to make themselves more savvy about getting out there and assessing the marketplace.
So the first thing that you have to do is you have to know who are your customers. You have to know what are their pains. How are you solving their pain? What's keeping them up at night that's going to solve their problem? In fact, that's a great way of finding out is go to your ideal customer or go to one of your existing customers and say, what's keeping you up at night? What's really bothering you in your business? And then if you can solve that problem, then you have a marketplace, at least with that customer and others that are like them. Right. And if you do that enough, you will uncover what the real obstacles are. At vLink Solutions, we're a video marketing agency, and what we found is a lot of companies that we go after want video production. Well, we do video production, but video marketing is a little more than that. And what we've had to do is we've had to actually raise the conversation, elevate the conversation to content marketing and become content marketing experts. Because if we can help our clients do effective content marketing, then they can begin to apply video in the context of their content marketing. Though only service we provide is content marketing, video content marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's thinking where are the customers' pain points? What are they struggling with, and how can the services that you really provide, the build it and they will come mentality doesn't work in B2B very often. It doesn't work in B2C very often. You have to create, you've got to understand what the customer's needs are and create demand for that from that. And Sometimes you're evangelizing a new market. So then you have to put on a totally different hat. I'm not trying to solve an existing problem. I'm trying to share with you, you've got a problem, and let me solve it. And that's what we ran into here. So we had to elevate the conversation to the problem that they could see so that we could solve the problem that they couldn't see.
Well, and it's also about differentiating yourself because, what you do offer here is so much more than just the video, the production piece of it. By really becoming almost a strategic partner, you're really kind of just, changing the game and differentiating yourself from those people that are only offering one piece of the puzzle.
No, totally agree. And I don't think it matters what industry you're in. That comes into play. You have to think about, how can I become a must-have for my customers rather than a nice-to-have? And when you can become a strategic partner for a client, someone that they go, wow, I couldn't live without that, that's when you've got a successful growing company. And that's when you can really make a difference in your clients' lives and in your clients' successes, which just builds on each other. Right. And it's not always easy. I mean, a lot of times you have to, again, going back to what I said before, you have to pivot to find that. I've got another quick story about pivoting. When I sold my interest in the ATDC company called NetSurfer back to the CEO and left the company and started a new company called Kudzu Technologies, not to be confused with kudzu.com. But we were going after utility construction projects where we helped them do project management for long-haul fiber optic construction projects. And in the process of integrating with other points that we had to integrate with, we met with this industry specialist, and they said, so let me get this straight. You're going to draw a route on a map, and we're going to track all this stuff, and you're going to submit to us all of the requests that we need to have in order for you to do that work. We said, yes. And they go, can you do the opposite of that? Can we submit the request to you and then screen them and change the way that people roll trucks? Totally changed our business completely. We made a huge pivot, and then that's how we sold the company. I mean, we went from thinking we were going this direction, and we didn't do a complete U-turn, but it was a pretty big pivot before we could shoot the moon. So before we could hit the moon, I mean, it really was a huge payoff for us as a result of pivoting that way. And if we hadn't done that, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we invested in the technology would have ended up going for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And, it's incredible to hear these success stories of when a pivot, when that feedback translated into, what the company really should have been in the first place, or the biggest value that was there to be found. I know I can think of entrepreneurs that I've worked with, spoken to, where you get a client coming to you, seeing maybe the SaaS product that you have out there or something, and they start to see something different. Maybe you're attracting a different client, or they want to use your product in a different way. What advice would you have about assessing when that's good or when that might not actually be in the best interest of the company?
Yeah, and I think when you and I talked on the phone, we talked a little bit about that. You have to maintain focus. I mean, you really need to think through, what are the things that I can do, that I can pivot, that are going to make me more successful without completely overhauling your business model. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we go after a client and we just try to solve every one of their problems, and it becomes a huge distraction. And when you do that, there might be some short-term gain, mm-hmm. but not necessarily long-term benefit for the shareholder value or stakeholder value in the company. And so you really have to assess that on a business need, the clientele need, the return on your investment to go after that marketplace or to go after the change in your technology. Let's say you've built a software product and you need to integrate it with another software product to make yourself more successful. So you think, I'm going to go spend all these thousands of dollars to do this integration, but you don't have a customer yet. Mm-hmm. So that may not be the best time to go do that.
Right.
Get a customer to drive that. And get a customer to pay for that shift is always the best way, because then you validated it in the process.
Right.
Build your ROI, let the customer validate it, and then look at your core business model. How big of a distraction is this? And those would be my kind of 1, 2, 3 checklist, if you will.
Right. I think that kind of goes back to the lean startup that we were speaking about, the book, and just the fact that a lot of times as entrepreneurs building the business, we do feel that pressure to make a perfect product first before then unveiling it to the world.
Yeah.
And sometimes that requires a lot of investment of time and money. And being able to structure yourself so that you get that feedback first, so that you save that time, you save that money, is just, we can't talk about that enough.
Yeah, Lean Startup is a great book. You and I talked about another one, Blue Ocean. I mean, you gotta, the thing about doing stuff lean and agile is so critical. I think that if you're building a company and you're thinking about, hey, I want to go do this big thing and I'm going to need a lot of capital to do it, the best advice anybody's going to give you is get a customer. And so if you can get a customer with a minimal viable product, then you should get a customer to pay for that pivot, and you get a customer to make that change. It's okay, using software as a background, it's okay if you don't have a perfect product. I heard a friend of mine say a long time ago, software's never finished. There's always going to be bugs, and there's always going to be feature enhancements. In fact, his saying was the only way to stop development was to kill all the developers. So that's true. Your software is always going to change. So if you can get to a point where it's sellable, where someone will actually pay for it, or even somebody beta customer it, that's better than trying to build this perfect thing. At least in the software game, it's better. I mean, obviously you can't open a restaurant with that mentality. You got to be able to serve. But you could you might do a food truck before you did a restaurant. I mean, there are other ways to think about that. So it just depends on your business. Consulting's a great one. You can go out and pitch yourself as a consultant in a certain niche, and before you really figured out all the answers.
Yeah.
You're kind of learning as you go and letting the customer pay for it. So I think it's really important to do it that way.
Now, you have, a lot of experience. You've seen a lot. And you also mentor. I'd love for you to share what mentorship has meant for you, both receiving mentorship and turning around now and mentoring others.
So I don't think we can do this on our own. And there are always, there's a quote, and I'm going to cannibalize this, and the person that told me this quote is going to get mad at me if he sees this, but you can always learn more about what's ahead from the person coming back. And there's some famous philosopher that said that. But by going and finding people that have been there, that have done that, is always easier than to really say, what does it look like there? What does success look like? How will I know when I get there? And following that and getting someone that will invest in you to do that is critical. On the other side, for me, I'm smart enough to know that I don't know all the answers, and I am still learning. And so it's exciting for me when I meet with other entrepreneurs, peers, or people that haven't gone as far as I have, or people that are right where I am, and talk about business challenges and how they're addressing them, whether it's a organized thing or just coffee. It's just super powerful to be able to give input, because you just learn from that. You learn from giving advice to someone else. It's like, wow, I need to listen to myself sometime. And then the other side of it is, like, you might be in a group setting. There's a group that I'm a member of that will have these. It's not a formal thing. We meet like once a quarter, and we just have a bunch of CEOs get together and have dinner. And 2 or 3 of us will get a chance to say, this is what we're wrestling with. The 2 or 3 or 4 that don't get to share are all wrestling with the same issues.
Right.
And so we always walk away. It's like, yeah, I'm facing that exact same thing, dealing with whatever it is, customer acquisition or personnel, or how to procure the right combination of health insurance plans. Everybody's facing something similar. So.
And something that you said there is just that you're smart enough to know that you don't know everything,
Right.
and I feel like that is the biggest thing whether you're new or established entrepreneur, if you can just come to terms with that and then open yourself up to learning with other people, and especially being open enough to say, I tried this and it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to. Have you done that? And just learning from everyone. Someone out there has the exact answer that you need.
And I think it's important that you go outside your firm or outside your
Yes.
company to do that, because if you're the owner or you're the CEO, you're the boss. Ultimately, you have a different set. The people that work for you or work with you have a different perception of you and different perception of the business because of their role in the company. So I do try my best to listen to my internal advisors, but I rely heavily on our external advisors because their whole reason for investing in me is to see me successful. There's no selfish gain for them. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? And even if they're a paid consultant, their ultimate win is my success, not their own.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little different. It's very hard when you get advice and you don't like it, because sometimes it's like, I really don't like that idea, but you have to try it, and you have to see. You got to really weigh it, and try to work your way through that. We sometimes entrepreneurs think we have all the answers, and the reality is that we probably don't. Mm-hmm. And if we did, we'd all be on a beach somewhere, right?
Right, exactly.
We'd be done.
Maybe one day.
So.
Now, one of your ventures had an element of community and philanthropy and working with nonprofits. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So I had a pretty big success leaving Kudzu Technologies when we sold that company, and then I took about 18 or 24 months and started a faith-based nonprofit that our whole goal was helping other nonprofits figure out their business plan and their strategy. And it was not a paid thing. It was all being paid for out of my wife's and our own pocket. We did have a couple of contributors that helped us, but when you're going into a nonprofit realm, and I love the philanthropy side of it, and I love the side that allowed me to see other people successful and help them avoid some pitfalls. I told somebody the other day that my whole job was to convince you not to do it. That don't quit your job. But being able to see those successes was pretty cool. But it was always paying it forward and giving it away, and using my experience in the business world to apply in that nonprofit world. In the business world, it's called marketing. In the nonprofit world, it's called promotion. In the business world, it's called revenue. In the nonprofit world, it's called contribution and fundraising. Mm-hmm. Everybody still has employees, so you still have management and HR issues, and those overheads, those types of overhead. The other thing is sustainability in the nonprofit world is a totally different game. How are you going to build a business model around a nonprofit that's sustainable? And it's you can have memberships, you can have donations, or you can go out and file for grants. And sometimes you can find other ways to supplement revenue or contributions. Mm-hmm. But it's a challenging thing. I enjoyed it a lot. I will say this, that after doing it for about 18 or 24 months, my wife came to me and said, "Honey, we're financially secure, but we're not financially independent. You need a job," which meant get out of the house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's when I started consulting, and then we ran into what vLink does, and we kind of started this adventure.
Mm-hmm. So for people who are looking to learn more about vLink and you, where should they go?
So obviously we have a website. You can go to thevideomarketingauthority.com or vlinksolutions.com. We've got a YouTube channel, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, LinkedIn profiles or LinkedIn page. And our ideal customer is someone that is embracing content marketing and really wants help driving and measuring the engagement of that content marketing. And the way we help them solve that problem is through video and video creation. And then once the video is done, we help them curate or manage that video. So we help them make sure that they're getting views and tracking those views. So we have our own software platform. I like to say that we're a software company that does video, not a video company that has software. Mm-hmm. And so we've spent a lot of money building a platform that is pretty sophisticated in reporting and tracking and driving views and measuring those views. But then we also create a bunch of videos. We got great people like the young lady that's shooting for us today doing it. So
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here and hosting Mastermind Your Launch here in your studio. It's been a pleasure.
thank you.